Hello, this is Ms. DB, and in this video we're going to look at how to do a couple of the problems from the 9.4 worksheet on finding perimeter and area in the coordinate plane. So what we're going to do is graph the vertices. You'll be given the coordinates of the vertices and then connect them with straight lines and decide whether it's a triangle or a rectangle or a parallelogram or what you have. And then we're also going to verify that by checking their slopes, and then we'll use the distance formula to find the area and the perimeter. Now, we've been using the distance formula since the beginning of the year. We learned about it on page 44 to start with. It's also right here. So we're going to be using that many times in this assignment, so get used to it. And there's also this method if you have a very strangely shaped figure that you don't have a formula for, like this is not a trapezoid, it's just a quadrilateral, you can subtract the area of the triangles from this rectangle that goes all around the outside of it. Every once in a while you have a figure that you just can't find the area of because it's not a special quadrilateral, so then we will use that method. So these problems, you can do them in, of course, if you're printing your worksheets out, you can do them by hand. If you're going to be graphing these points, when you connect them, you need to use a ruler to connect those so that you have a straight line. And then you're going to find the area. Depending on what shape it is, if it's a rectangle, you'll use base times height. And you will most likely need to use the distance formula to find the lengths that you need to multiply. If you're asked to find the perimeter, as you are in this example, then you will also need to add up all of the outside figures. So you'll use the distance formula. If it's a rectangle, then you would go area equals length times width or base times height. And then the perimeter is found by adding up all of these distances for each length that you found. And then the rest of the worksheet is the same thing. You will draw the polygon by putting the vertices on the graph and connecting them. Say what kind of a polygon you have. That's what classify means, whether it's a triangle, a rectangle, a quadrilateral, a parallelogram. And then you will find the perimeter and area of each. You will need to use the distance formula to find the lengths of the sides. Now you can do this by printing it and doing it by hand, of course. You can do this worksheet by going to the Insert menu and then insert the shape of a straight line to connect the vertices. So at T would be at 1, -2. So I'm going to start here and then I'm going to go to 4, 1. So over 4 and up 1 would be one side of my polygon. And then my next side would be from 4, 1 to the point 2, 3, which is right here. And then the next point would be from there to -1, 0. So -1, 0 is right here. And of course, if you graph these points wrong, you're not going to have the correct polygon, and then it won't work. And then this point, we just need to connect back to the first one that we did. So that's one way that you can make your figures using Word. And then you would have to use the distance formula to find the lengths of all 4 sides. And then for the area, you will take the length of, let's say, this side by the length of this side. So let's do this one by hand. And we will do that by taking the, let's go. And why is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I have to do the convert to get my drawing tools to work. There we go. Okay, so this point was T, U, V, W. I'll label them. So I'm going to find the distance of this one. The distance formula is found by subtracting the x values and squaring it, and subtracting the y values and squaring them. So the x values, I'm going to find side UV first. U is 4, 1, and V is 2, 3. So x sub 2 minus x sub 1 would be 4 minus 2. I'm subtracting the x coordinates. And then the y coordinates would be 1 minus 3. You have to subtract in the same order. And then you're going to square those quantities. So 4 minus 2 is 2 squared. 1 minus 3 is negative 2 squared. And then 2 squared is 4. Negative 2 squared is also 4 because a negative times a negative is a positive number. We add these together, we get the square root of 8. Now we're going to simplify the square root of 8. 8 can be rewritten as 4 times 2. So the square root of 8 can be rewritten as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Square root of 4 times square root of 2 is square root of 8. But we know that the perfect square of 4, the square root of 4 is 2. So this length from here to here is 2 square root of 2. Now we're going to use the distance formula for TU. So TU, T is at 1, negative 2. And we're looking for this length now. So I'm going to use a distance formula again. Here it is right here. I'm going to take the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1. 1 minus 4 squared. And then I'm going to subtract the y values. Negative 2 minus 1 squared. Now I simplify. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. And I have to square it. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3 squared. And then this is equal to negative 3 squared is 9, a positive 9, and negative 3 squared is also 9. So this is the square root of 18. Now I have to simplify the square root of 18. The square root of 18 could be rewritten as the square root of 9 times the square root of 2, because 9 times 2 equals 18. And I know that the square root of 9 is 3. So this becomes 3 square root of 2. So this is a rectangle. So this is 3 square root of 2. This side is also 3 square root of 2. I guess the width of the rectangle is 2 square root of 2, and this one would also be 2 square root of 2. So to find the perimeter, I'm going to add up all 4 sides. So 3 square root of 2 plus 2 square root of 2 plus 3 square root of 2 plus 2 square root of 2. All of these are square roots of 2, so it's like adding like terms. I have 3 of them plus 2 more, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 square root of 2 is my perimeter. For the area, we are going to multiply the 2 sides together, base times width. So 3 square root of 2 times 2 square root of 2. When we multiply the number parts together. 3 times 2 is 6, and then we multiply the square roots together. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 would be the square root of 4. But the square root of 4 is equal to 2. Square root of 4 is a perfect square, and it's just 2. So the area of this is 12. So now we have found the perimeter and the area for number 11. Now I'm going to do one more example, but I'm going to switch to, there's a Sketchpad file that you can do on this assignment if you want. And the first page of the Sketchpad file is just examples. So you can use that to look at some examples like we've looked at on the other worksheet. Here's the distance formula. And then here's the problems. If you click on these page tabs, you'll get to the rest of them. We already did 11. Let's start number 3. 3 through 7 all goes along with this problem here. So in Sketchpad, to plot the points, you go to Graph, Plot Points, and now we type in these values. So A is at 1, 2, and B is at 2, negative 1, C is at negative 1, negative 2, and D is at negative 2, 1. All right, I'm done. Now I'm going to connect those points with the straight segment tool here. So the points are from here to here. Those other points in the middle are to help you zoom in or out if you need to, but I don't, so I'm just going to leave those alone. All right, so it looks like this is a square. We could double check that, well, it's definitely a rectangle. We could double check the slopes by, Let's see if we can measure two slopes at once. I'm not sure if you can. Measure, oh, I can, slopes. So one slope is at -3. The other, it says it's 0.333, but that's the same as 1/3. So that shows that these are at right angles to each other. We can also check that with that marker tool. If we draw the angle mark in there, it should turn into a right angle. So these are all right angles, so we know it's at least a rectangle. And we'll be able to tell if it's a square if this length is equal to this length. Now we're supposed to use distance formula to do that. So I'm going to get the marker tool again. Here's the distance formula up here if you forgot it, but by now you should have it memorized. So the distance is equal to x minus x minus y minus y, and each of those are squared. I'm going to check and see if these, I think they are, except this should be c down here, and this is d. So A is, and you don't have to label these with the coordinates, it just helps me when I find the distance, and B is at 2, -1. So the distance of this side here, I would find with the distance formula. I'm going to subtract the x value, so I'm going to take 2 minus 1 squared plus the y minus the y, so that'd be -1 minus 2. And then I will just continue simplifying. So 2 minus 1 is 1, and I still have to square that. And then I have -1 minus 2 is a -3, and I'll have to square that. So 1 squared is 1. -3 squared is going to be positive because a negative times a negative is positive, and I get the square root of 10. Now 10 has factors 2 times 5, but neither of those are a perfect square, so I will leave this side as the square root of 10. Now I'll check this side. Let's see, c is at -1, -2. So now I'm going to find the distance between sides C and B. So we are going to take -1 minus 2 and square it. And then -2, this is a little tricky here, minus a -1. That's the same as +1. Minus a -1 is the same as +1, but I'll go ahead and write it out. So -1 minus 2, that's -3 squared, plus -2 plus 1 squared. Okay, -3 squared is 9. And then we would have -2 plus 1 is -1 squared. So that's -1 times -1 is a positive 1. So we get the square root of 10 for this side too, which means this is a square. So when you say what kind of polygon it is, it's a square. We check the slopes, and they're opposite reciprocals of each other, and we found the length of the sides, and the two consecutive sides were the same length. So the next step is to find the area. The area is found by multiplying one side times itself for a square, -10 squared, or you can take -10 times -10. Not negative, square root of 10 times the square root of 10. The square root of 10 squared, or the square root of 10 times the square root of 10, you could write that as the square root of 100, but the square root of 100 is 10. When you take the square root of 10 and square it, the squaring undoes the square root, so you just end up with 10. So the area is exactly 10. The perimeter would be found by taking all 4 sides and adding them together. There's 4 of them. So your answer for the perimeter is just 4 times the square root of 10. Now, since we're using Sketchpad, we can double check this using the tools in Sketchpad to measure the lengths. So I'm going to click on all 4 sides of the figure and go to measure. Oh, it's got some other stuff selected. Try that again. I'm going to measure the lengths. If anything else is selected, I had something down here selected, it won't do what you want it to do. Lengths. So the length of DC is 3.16. Why didn't it do the rest of them? The length of DA, oh, they're all on top of each other. That's weird. So here's my 4 lengths, and they're all 3.16. So the area would be found. There's a calculator in Sketchpad right here. The area would be found by multiplying, let's see, side DA. Where is DA? Oh, I think it labeled these opposite that I did. AB is labeled clearly, and this one they called AC. If I multiply those two together, it equals 10, just like I found it was 10. So you can use the Sketchpad tools to double check that your calculation is correct. And you could also calculate, you could add all of these together. Calculate this plus this. Now this is not going to give us the exact value with the square root of 10, but it'll give us a decimal value of 12.65. And you can double check that your answer of 4 square root of 10, let's see, square root is in here, square root of 10 times 4 should be the exact same number that Sketchpad calculated. And it is. So there's our perimeter. All right, so you can use the Sketchpad file to help you do this, and for sure helping you graph these and to check your answers. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day.